Hello, my lovely Laravel friends. Welcome to 2026. This is episode 250 of the Laravel News Podcast. Today is Tuesday, the 13th of January. Man, it has been a while. We have been off the air for, it seems like forever. I think it's only been a month, but it has been a nice little break. It's been a nice little hiatus. Didn't realize how much I needed it. We've been doing this for, how long has it been for the Laravel News Podcast? At least 5 years, probably. I think 5?
2018, I reckon we started. So
okay. Oh, okay.
I think this is our 8th year.
Wow. Yeah.
8th year, 9th year.
So, yep, it's been a while. So it was, this is the longest we've gone without recording in 8 years. So,
yeah.
So we could talk about, we did.
You and I stopped.
Mm-hmm.
But when we go through this episode, the community did not stop.
Yes,
the
correct.
Stuff that has come out. Taylor's been working on AI SDKs. He's been working on AI skills, documentation. I know that the Laravel team, there's a few people that are flying to San Francisco like right now at the time of this recording because they've got some AI event where they're going to show off, I think, the AI SDK that Taylor's been working on. But there's just been releases. There's been all kinds of news coming out. People have been going ham. I think
Jeffrey Way has been going crazy, like with the AI stuff. Like he was kind of
I think even for me, like I was on the fence about the whole thing, and then over the Christmas New Year break, I had time off work to sit down and actually just sit down and play with the tools and the technology without the interruption of work. You've got to work on this, you got to do this, you got to change whatever. Just to really figure out how to use the tools, how to leverage them using what I already know. And look, I said to you before we started recording, I have been AI pilled. It didn't take much, but I have I've joined the fold. Even to put together our show notes today, I was like, I don't want to do this manually. So I just went into GPT for this and said, go and find everything that we need for the show notes, write them into this format, and then go and write yourself a document, like a planned document, so that the next time I have to do this, I can say, just go and read the notes.
Awesome.
This is the date. Go and do it. And so it
nice.
worked really well. So
I just had an opportunity to do the same last night. I had something I was sort of putting off, but it was a brand new project, Laravel new, and then I just wrote a 2-page prompt and it was like, this is my plan. Like, what do you need still? What do you still need to know? Ask me a couple questions. And it was like, here's my plan. I'm like, do it. And I spent probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours making something that would have taken me probably 10 hours before. So absolutely incredible. Yeah. So really fun stuff. We'll be talking probably about a couple of those things in here during this show, but we are going to kick it off with releases. So Laravel version 12.44. Let's talk about it. Laravel team released this featuring HTTP client callbacks after the response is returned, a test response header assertion method, additional fluent date validation methods, and more. Okay, Luke Kuzmish contributed the ability to define callbacks after building the response in Laravel's HTTP client. So what this does is it allows you to inspect, send events, and even mutate the response via an after response callback. So this is with that Laravel HTTP client. In the pull request and as well as in the show notes, it shows him creating a new HTTP request, and then you have your with header. Here's the base URL. Then you can say after response, and you can chain these things together. But after the response, you can say the response header is going to be this, and if there is a header, then you're going to trigger this event. And then you can chain another one on, looking at the response, and then you can take that response and build out some DTOs. It's really, really interesting stuff here. So instead of having to take the response, save it into a temporary variable, and then do something with it after the fact, you just arrow after response. It gets you a closure with that response, and now you can do whatever you want to do with that. Not just in one, but you can chain them together, saying, I'm going to do multiple things with that response after the fact. So really cool. I think Taylor, Adam, maybe a couple of the folks, but they really sort of were allergic to these temporary variables that we just get floating around. And so instead of doing these temporary variables, they just do these fluent interfaces. Laravel's famous for them. And so sure, why not? An after response fluent chain method onto the HTTP client. Really cool stuff there. At Milad contributed a new assertion method to the test response class. And what this allows you to do is it helps you to assert the contents of an HTTP response header inside your test. So you can say response arrow assert header contains, and then you can set the header that you're looking at, and then here's the value that it should contain. So as long as it's within that custom header, it will pass with a true. Caleb White contributed new methods to the date fluent validation rule for dealing with various now conditions. So if you're not aware of what this is, of course we have validation rules, but there's that rule dodop, and then you can pass a particular method there to get an instance of a particular type of validation method. In this case, we're talking about the date fluent validation method. So you can say rule dodop date arrow and time arrow now or past. So that's the validation rule. You're saying the date that's getting passed in here needs to be now or past now. It needs to be in the past, right? Now or future or arrow past. So basically just saying include the current time and moving forward, or just needs to be in the future. So you could think about something like somebody's reserving a hotel, right? And it needs to be in the future. Can't be now, can't be today. We're not going to do it right now. It's got to be at some point in the future. We've all had these things where you have date pickers and you kind of got to like, you do that on the front end, but how do you validate that on the back end? You can now do that really nicely. Pull request 58059 for implementation details on that one. Matteo Palazzo contributed an update to the locale updated event that adds the previous property and gives you access to the previous locale when listening to the locale updated event. I honestly don't know when the locale updated event gets fired. I'm guessing this is used a good deal in internationalization, right? So you're saying, I'm going to update the locale of the current user. Maybe you have a drop down where they select a locale and then this event gets fired. So when that happens, now you have the ability to grab off of that event, not only the locale that they set, but also the previous locale that was in there as well. So if you need to do some cleanups or you need to basically check what the dirty value was, you can do that as well. All right, folks, that is 12.44. Michael, over to you.
The week of January 7th, Laravel team released version 12.45. First up, Mior Mohammed Zaki contributed a JSON API resource that allows you to output API resources using the JSON API specification instead of what we've come to know and love, the basic JSON resource in Laravel. You can create JSON API resources using the make resource command and passing the --JSON API flag. Kacper Pruszczynski contributed an as-binary cast, which stores values as binary bytes and exposes them as a string in PHP, which is interesting. I wonder when and why you would use that. But you can say as binary ULID, you can say as binary of ZOR1, or you can say as binary UUID, for example. But check out pull request 58,254 for more information there. Philo Hermans contributed a from cloud storage attachment method, which makes it easier to add attachments to emails that are stored on the cloud. So before you'd have to say attachment .op from storage disk and pass it the storage .op get default cloud driver argument and then give it the path. Now you can just call attachment .op from cloud storage and give it the path, and that will handle it all for you. Jake's mate, Andy Hinkle, contributed enum support for session keys, allowing you to pass the enum directly instead of the string value, which is in line with many other areas of the framework. We have spoken about this on many occasions. So previously, you'd have to, if you were doing a session put or a session get, you'd have to say enum.op member and then arrow value, whereas now you can pass the enum member directly.
Love me a
Similar
good
to
enum.
enum support, got to get the enums everywhere. Make life so much simpler.
It does.
Similar to enum support for session keys, Jack Bayliss contributed back to enum support for cache keys. I looked at doing this ages ago and it kind of fell flat because there was a whole bunch of tests that needed to be updated and it was a matter of figuring out which way it wanted to be done. So thanks, Jack. I won't have to worry about doing that anymore.
Nice.
Ali Khosrojodi contributed a mark email as unverified method to complement the mark email as verified method to reset email verification for a model record. And last up here, Matthias Grimm contributed a -- readable flag to the env::encrypt command. This new flag for the env encrypt command produces a line-by-line encrypted format where the variable names remain visible, but the values themselves are encrypted. This allows developers to see what environment variables exist without exposing the sensitive data and makes pull requests easy to review since reviewers can see which variables were added, removed, or renamed without needing to decrypt the file, which I think is a particularly useful improvement. So thanks to Matthias for that one.
Really cool one. Yeah.
Because sometimes you need to know, what am I adding here? And you'd like to see, make sure there isn't a
without
typo
having to
in there
decrypt
or
it.
anything
Exactly.
like that. So shout out to Matthias for that one. That is all for Laravel 12.45.
All right, we've got 12.45.1 and 45.2. These are just a couple patch fixes right here. And then we're going to have 12.46 we're going to talk about as well. In 45.1, they fixed the resource collection usage. And then in 45.2, there was a validator append rules that was fixed. And then calling toArray on an anonymous resource collection was fixed as well. So just a couple little patch releases there. But 12.46, a couple key highlights here: array only values, array except values, helper methods for filtering arrays by values. I'm going to go down the list here. All right, let's talk about that one real quick. So we've got all sorts of array helpers. We're so spoiled. So if you've not used it before, Michael affectionately calls this the R helper, like the pirate helper, ARR. ARR Dodop. We've got only values and except values, which are doing very guessable things, right? Give me only these type of values. Give me everything except these type of values. And so, and actually, that's not the thing. It's not that. It's if you have, sorry. It's giving me if I have, no, it is. I was thinking it was going to do some enum thing. It is. It's doing exactly that. Yep, it is. So if I have the roles and I pass in like admin, editor, viewer, guest, and then I say array only values, here's the array, and then give me these couple, it's going to give me the keys and, it's going to give me a 0-based index of those values. And then same thing, except values, it's going to strip those out and then reset the indexes there. So both methods support strict typing comparison via optional third parameter, which is useful when working with these different mixed type arrays. So there we go. When would you use these, right? Especially when you're using things like configuration arrays, when you're needing to say config and then you're grabbing some values. It's very helpful to be able to just say, nope, only give me these few or give me everything except these ones. And then you can clean up those things that way. It's just much easier. Okay. Collection contains many items method. So what is this? So we've all used collections before, but contains many items is a complement to the contains one item method. So there's just some basic usage checks here, right? If I have an empty array contains many items, of course, it's going to return false. If I have a array that contains one item that contains many items, is going to, again, return false. If it contains more than one that contains many items, of course, is going to return true. Again, this is a complement to the contains one item method. So you can, at the end of your collection, after you do your filtering, after you do your mapping, arrow contains one item, or arrow contains many items, those will return some Boolean values for you, particularly useful in validation logic to ensure that multiple options are selected. It's also very efficient. It returns early once it finds more than one matching item, making it performant even with large collections. So you don't have to worry about looping over every single one of them. Does an early return, nice and clean. Okay. We talked a little bit about 12.45.2. Apparently, this also added gate authorization with enum support. So you have gate dodop has, and previously you'd have to pass in the value into that. So if view dashboard was a thing, but you had something called permissions and you had a enum case called view dashboard, you'd have to do arrow user on it. No longer. Now you don't have to do that. You can just pass those enums. Again, enums everywhere. We love the enums, and we will actually be going back and using this inside of our own stuff because we just recently did exactly this, where we used gate has all over the place, and we had to do arrow value, again, all over the place. So we'll be updating this and updating those options. It feels so much cleaner to do it that way. So good stuff there. Okay, that is all of the stuff for 1246, 45.1 and 2.
Laravel 12.47, the last of our releases this week, was released on the 13th of January at the time of this recording, which is today. Introduces several developer experience improvements, including a new include isolated blade directive for isolated template includes, a convenient cache without overlapping method for lock-based operations, and enhanced enum support across various framework components. So the isolated blade includes with @include isolated directive, which allows you to include a blade template without inheriting any variables from the parent view. This provides a clean state for the included template, preventing accidental variable leakage and making templates more predictable. This is particularly useful for reusable components, for third-party templates, for testing, and for clarity because it makes template dependencies explicit and intentional. The new cache without overlapping method provides a cleaner API for executing code that should not run concurrently. This wraps the common pattern of acquiring a lock and blocking until it is available. So previously you might have done cache .lock, arrow block, arrow get, whereas now, similar to how we have cache remember, you can say cache .op without overlapping, give it a key, and then the second parameter is a callback that allows you to do whatever you need to do. And then the third parameter is the number of seconds for how long you should wait for a lock. And you can optionally pass it an owner as well for the lock owner identifier. This is ideal for queue jobs, for scheduled tasks, and any operation where concurrent execution could cause data inconsistencies. Laravel's precognition features now support wildcard array validations. This allows form validation to work correctly when using precognitive requests with array fields that use the asterisk wildcard syntax. Precognitive requests will now properly validate individual array items as users interact with dynamic form fields, providing real-time feedback for each item in the array. Next up, the notification class is now macroable, allowing you to extend notifications with custom methods, and this will enable you to add shared functionality across all of your notifications without creating a base notification class. It's funny that these things, how long they have existed before someone thought, you know what, let's make this macroable. You know, just throwing a trait on there.
That was like back in the day with like string helpers when Caleb was the string king. That's when we were doing all the macroable stuff. It's similar to how, like, you know, there'll be 5 years from now, there'll be something like, oh, enum support has been added for whatever. It's like, what? How did that get missed the last time enums were all the hotness? Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of enum support, the pending batch on connection method now accepts enum values, bringing consistency with other parts of the framework. Enum keys and additional session store methods are now accepted as well. When using Laravel's newly added JSON API resources, circular references are now automatically deduplicated, which prevents infinite loops and reduces response payload size when dealing with bi-directional relationships. So this is if you have like a user has many posts and then a post belongs to a user. Previously, you could cause circular reference issues. So this is all automatically handled. We talked about this quite a while ago, I think now, with the chaperone method that was announced at probably Laracon US in Nashville.
Chaperone, yeah.
Was it that long ago? So the chaperone method. I don't think it was, or maybe it was last year. I think it was the year after. I think it was the year after. Yeah, well, maybe it was last year. Anyway, similar kind of behavior where it prevents that circular. Like if you load the post with all the users, but then the user has it stops all of that madness from happening. So shout outs to the contributor for that one. The PHP Artisan key generate command now provides a more helpful message when the app key is already set in your environment, which makes it clearer why the command is not generating a new key. So it will now say, application key already set, use --force to regenerate. This is a beefy release. We've got a few more things here.
It is. I was skimming over all of it. I was like, this is going to take a bit.
The failed jobs migration stub now includes database indexes for improved query performance. So when creating a new failed jobs table, it will automatically include indexes on commonly queried columns. So the string UUID, the queue name, and the failed at timestamp will all have index now. So the queue and the failed at timestamps are the new indexes added. This improves performance when querying failed jobs by queue name or failure time. And the last item we have here is the bus batch method now automatically filters out faulty items, making it easier to conditionally include jobs in a batch. So if you would say, you know, I only want to send a notification if your order needs notification, or you need to track analytics if you need to track analytics. If you just pass null for these things that don't need to be accounted for, it will filter that out for you automatically. So no more needed there. But yeah, huge release to really start out the year with a bang. So shout out to everyone who contributed. That brings us to the end of this week's releases.
Woo. That was a big chunk of them, man. There was some really good stuff. I'm going to have to go back through there and notify my team of a couple of those that we're going to be like, oh, this is now available. We should go do this. The email one, the with cloud storage, or attachment from cloud storage. I think that only works if you are using the default cloud storage driver. I'm pretty sure.
I think there is.
Otherwise, it doesn't know, right? It's just saying like, instead of having to say like from storage and then provide the default cloud storage driver, it's like just, or the default storage cloud storage disk. It's like, yeah, just cloud is typically where we're pulling them from. So just do it from there. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there's two configuration options in there for the configuration for the file systems. There's one which is the overall default, and then
right.
There's
you have a default, and then you have a cloud one, right?
Or is this Livewire specific? I don't remember.
No, I don't think so. No,
not sure.
Nope. No, it's in there. Yeah, it's in file systems.php. So you have your default.
There's nothing in the there's nothing in the default framework configuration that suggests that at all. So, but I've definitely seen it around somewhere.
Okay. All right. Well, I could be wrong, but that's what I think it was trying to get at. Because I was like, how does it know which disk? Oh, it's the default. Yeah. That's what my thought was. Yeah. Anyway, folks, we've got some news and some packages to talk about. Now, here's what I will tell you. Normally, the news would not contain packages. But since we are in AI land right now, the news did contain at least one package, which is handling nested data structures in PHP with the data block package. But since it's in here, we're going to honor the AI's efforts because it saved us so much time today. Thank you, AI. And we're just going to hit it. So I've also been reading about this. This is really interesting. So I feel like JSON has won the data format wars, right? We have to use XML sometimes, which XML, to be fair, like does have some really great stuff in it. But most of the stuff that we're dealing with is JSON. And we all just grin and bear it. And it's got its warts and its ugliness, but it's just the standard, right? It's what we're used to dealing with. Unfortunately, when you get these massive blocks of data, it can be really difficult to parse through them and find just the specific pieces that you need. And so this package, what it does is it handles querying, filtering, setting nested data structures, and it's a really streamlined approach to doing so. So imagine, if you will, that you get like a JSON file, you get an array, maybe you know that you're going to get a JSON response from a URL. You can set this up as the source, and then what this will do is it will wrap it all in this block object, and you can treat it almost like an eloquent query. So you can call a select on it, you can do a where statement, you can do an order by statement, and then once you get all of them, you can do a each over all of it, just like you would with a collection that you retrieved back from Eloquent. Super powerful. So I can say block dodop from JSON URL, I can pass it this URL, and then I can do arrow select, full name, stargazers count, where stargazers count is greater than 2, order by the stargazers count, and then for each of those, I can go through and echo the full name and the number of the stargazers. Really, really cool. That would be a pain in the neck to do otherwise. And likely what I would do in that instance, if it was me, is I likely would put those into a database or use something like Sushi to wrap that up and then do this. And this is just free. You can just block dot from JSON URL, or again, you can pass it a array or a JSON file. So you could like load a fixture in. So apart from that, the methods to conditionally get data, filter, and order data, you can also set nested data. So you can say, I want to block make this array, and then I'm going to set a particular value on that. Or you can, similar to how you would use data get, which is a helper in Laravel that I use very frequently, which allows you to essentially pass in some sort of array or JSON structure, and then you can get the keys by using dot notation. So a lot of times if you use config, this is how that works, right? If you say config and then you say I'm going to do file systems dot whatever piece you're wanting to get there, right? It's going to use dot notation in order to access those config values. This allows you to use dot notation in order to grab values out of this JSON structure, which is pretty cool. And then again, you can set those as well. So besides working with those data objects, you can also then export them from block to various formats. So you can say, give me a JSON string out of that, or give me a JSON file, or write it to YAML even. It's really well documented in the GitHub README. Super cool. It's at hi-folks/data-block on GitHub. Really interesting stuff there, and lots of uses for how you could utilize that in your applications.
Ben Bjurstrom had a new post out on the 7th of January outlining why he thinks that Laravel is the best Vibecoding stack for 2026. He put this one out around the same time that I saw a tweet from Taylor that kind of hit on a lot of these same points. But to quote Ben's article, your AI is only as good as the decisions it doesn't have to make. Every time an LLM has to choose between competing patterns, pick a library, or figure out how to wire things together, that's where things can go wrong. The numerous external services you need to sign up for, the weird architectural choices, the code that looks right but falls apart the moment you try to extend it. Laravel has built-in defaults for almost everything, and when you're vibe coding, that is not a limitation, it is a superpower. So that is ending the quote from the article. Eric has also added on here that Laravel's conventions reduce the surface area for AI mistakes. There are few decisions to hallucinate and fewer architectural forks, fewer it depends answers. When an AI assistant knows where models live, how routes are named, and how data flows, it produces better output and fewer wrong guesses. And this is also why Eric feels it's so important to follow the conventions of the framework. I feel like I've only heard horror stories from people who fought against it rather than embracing it. I think we mentioned at the top of the show the stuff that has been coming out. Taylor released a Laravel cleanup skill that you can use with Claude Code that basically takes the output that the AI writes and you run it through this skill and it would make it look like how Taylor would make it look effectively. So no excuses there. And it, by all accounts, it's right. You don't have to make decisions. Everything's conventional. If you stick with the framework, I think JMac quoted this and said, now even the AI knows not to fight the framework. So that's something we've talked about for a long time in the Laravel community.
Yep, absolutely. It's exciting stuff, man. And I sort of have to agree after having experimented with it myself. I did a Laravel new and then said build on top of this, and it was very familiar. Felt very much like exactly what I would expect it to be. All I had to say is use some sane validation rules, and I used a form request, popped it in the rules array, used all the rules, the Fluent rules. It works really well, really, really well. Yeah. And the funny thing is, nobody would have known that. It's not like Taylor had a time machine and was like, okay, we're just going to establish really, really good conventions, and that's going to, somehow set us up for the future of, development. But it did. It really totally did. And so that dude sometimes I feel like he has a little magic glass ball that he's looking into, and he just sees it before the rest of us do. Really cool stuff. Hey, speaking of really cool stuff, let's talk about Laravel Wayfinder. So if you've not heard of Laravel Wayfinder before, what this does is it allows you to bridge your Laravel backend and your TypeScript front end. So if you end up having what Michael has on his side, right? You have a backend team and you have a front end team. Your front end team uses React and they do all that stuff, or they use Vue, or they're using Inertia, or whatever they might be using. They don't get the types from the backend, right? We get to enjoy all the type safety from the backend, and that's all wonderful. But it can be difficult to translate those things from the back to the front. What Laravel Wayfinder is attempting to do is it makes that bridge between the back and the front. And it's supposed to be absolutely zero friction. So the way that it does that is it goes through your application and then it automatically generates these fully typed TypeScript objects from your Laravel code so that you don't have to manually maintain your routes, your request types, your form requests, right? Your API contracts. It just keeps all those things in sync. So according to this post, Joe Tannenbaum said there's a new beta of Laravel Wayfinder route. So version 1 has been out, it's been released, but this is a new beta. And according to his post, this version transforms more of those things that we're talking about into TypeScript straight from your PHP. So here's the list: routes, form requests, eloquent models, your enums, praise God, inertia page props, inertia shared data, broadcast channels, broadcast events, environment variables, and also includes some new friends like this thing called Surveyor. And this is like a static analysis tool that extracts information from your code and creates it into those TypeScript objects. And then Ranger, which is a layer on top of Surveyor, where you can then register callbacks. As entities are discovered by Surveyor, you can register callbacks with Ranger, and then you can receive these rich DTOs back that you're going to build with on the front end. So really, really neat stuff. There's a lot to read about in here as far as the Wayfinder beta. I'm not going to go through all of it. I think I've hit most of the high points here, but that is the promise. For those of you who have struggled for a long time for unifying your backend teams and your front-end teams, struggle no more. Laravel Wayfinder is the ticket. And so check that one out. Great work on that, Joe Tannenbaum and team.
Nice. Laravel News, that's us, partners with Laracon India as an official media partner for the 2026 conference. Laracon India, happening on the 31st of January and 1st of February in Ahmedabad in India, brings together Laravel developers from across the region for a full day of talks, learning, and community connection. The event continues to grow each year and plays an important role in the Indian Laravel ecosystem. As part of our partnership, Harris Raftopoulos and the Laracon India team will be on site representing the collaboration with Laravel News, and some of the things we hope to accomplish is conducting interviews with speakers and attendees, capturing content for Laravel News social media channels, and sharing updates and highlights from the conference. Not entirely dissimilar to what you and I did when we were in Laracon US last year. And this, of course, allows Laravel News to stay closely connected to the event and the Indian Laravel community. So if you are planning to attend Laracon India, tickets are available. You can join us for a quick interview if you are in attendance. If you want to share your Laravel story with us and the world, visit our booth at the conference. We've got a reel as well in the show notes from Laracon US 2025. You can check out as well. It was a bit of fun, some fast and loose questions about pizza toppings and so on and so forth. So definitely look for Harris, look for the Laracon India team, and stop by our booth and say hi.
If you guys have been listening to, if you folks, let me be politically correct here, if you folks have been listening to the Laravel News podcast over the last 6 months, you've heard us talk about Jason McCreary and his journey to optimize Laravel Shift to get as much of it cached as possible at the edge using Cloudflare services. So recently, JMac released a course called Fast Laravel, and it's now out. But we have a little article here from JMac talking about the journey as to what led him to this point. And so I just want to talk about it real quick. If you've not heard about it, we're going to do a quick recap. So Jason is well-versed in the web development world. He's been doing this for like 25 years. And so he knows a lot of the challenges that you face as a web developer in making your website fast, right? You're having to optimize your queries. You're having to make sure that you're not sending too much stuff over the wire. But Cloudflare is one of those things that just promises to deliver a really good, fast experience. But it's one of those things where it's like, if I have time, I'll get to it. But it's just, you never get to it, right? And so Jason in July sort of said, this is something I've wanted to get to for a while. I'm really going to dig in and go deep on this. There was a couple things that were out there, but there's really like this knowledge gap as far as how do you go from start to finish and go from, in his case, like 4% cached to 99% cached. And so what he did is he tweeted about this, he live streamed it, got a lot of really good feedback on it. And since there's a knowledge gap there, decided, hey, I'm just going to make a 5-video course and see how this goes. There's been a lot of really good feedback about it. And one of his viewers even reported updating their landing page to respond in 40 milliseconds, which is blazingly fast. if you are interested in doing the same, you can either go read a bunch of blog posts and try and figure it out yourself, or you can just go check out Fast Laravel and purchase the course. Not that bad. I'm looking at pricing right now. We're talking about where is it? Buy $199. So think about it this way. If you're spending $50 an hour, this is a half a day to discover everything that took Jason half a year to learn. Very well worth it. If you're interested in getting blazingly fast response times from your application, and if you're already using Cloudflare, this is really a no-brainer. You should definitely check this one out. Jason's a great teacher. He's released multiple courses over the span of his career. So definitely check this one out. Really, really good. This is not a sponsor post. This is just an awesome course that I think you should definitely check out by a really valuable community member. Thanks, JMac, for putting this one out. Go check it out, folks.
Inertia 2.3.7 was released on the 7th of January, and this patch version introduces a don't remember form helper method, fixes polling breaking in browser autocompletion, and a TypeScript unbound method ESLint warning when destructuring methods from use form. So the main headline feature we'll talk about here is the don't remember method in your form helper. It allows you to exclude specific fields from being remembered in history state. You can use this for sensitive fields such as passwords or credit card details. It's a matter of just tacking on the method call to the use form, I guess, function. Is that if that's what it's called in your JavaScript context? So it's a use form, then you pass it the name of the form and then a configuration object specifying in the credit card number example, a card number, a CVV, and expiry, and then you just tack on the end of that don't remember, and then card number and CVV, just pass it a comma separated list of things that you don't want it to remember once the form is submitted. And safe as you like. So check out Inertia 2.3.7 for that one.
Awesome. Hey folks, if you are a user of Livewire, you're definitely going to want to tune into this one. Livewire 4 is dropping next week. So Caleb's been putting out some videos about this. Yep. Tomorrow. He's been putting out some videos about this, and one of the really cool things that he's featured in these videos is how this new wire transition is making animations in your web app using Livewire super effortless. And so this has been something that's been a little bit awkward when you've been building interfaces, reactive interfaces with Livewire, is trying to make things that are reactive but don't feel clunky when elements are entering or leaving the DOM. And so you used to have to like wire it up with JavaScript hooks or like coordinate CSS classes. Now you don't have to do all that. Livewire is going to handle the heavy lifting for you. So in the preview video, Caleb describes this as making animations, quote, unbelievably simple and powerful. And he has a couple really good examples, not just simple ones either, where you're saying click and like bring us something in, but items where you're shuffling panels that are on a page or even dragging things around the page. So it's not just the most common simple animation stuff. He really went deep on this and said, I'm going to make this work well for, 90% of the use cases. Let's call it 85% of the use cases. So in his videos, he just sort of joked like, hey, I actually feel bad for anybody that's using Livewire version 3 on this one. This just keeps getting better and better and easier. And so all those new features, including wire transitions, are already available today in the beta release. So you can get a chance to experiment with those before the official launch if you'd like to. It also is already live in the documentation and has the full quick start guide. I'm interested in seeing the migration path. I'm wondering what sort of stuff is backwards compatible, or if there's anything I need to be concerned about. I'm sure that'll be another post coming up. But check that one out. And I want to say, if there is going to be backwards compatible problems, I bet Jason McCreary will probably write a shift for it anyway. So not too worried if that's not something that's already on his docket. I'm sure it will be soon. So excited for this one. Give Caleb a shout out, say hey to him, and tell him congrats. Really cool stuff.
You have been away, right? So let me fill you in and fill our listeners in as well. There will be an article on Laravel News when Livewire version 4 comes out. There will be a series on Laracasts from Caleb talking about all the new features of Livewire version 4. On Monday of this week, at the time of this recording, JMag did like a full day stream where he was building the Livewire 3 to Livewire 4 shift. So that will be available as
I
well.
remember, I remember liking that tweet. He even said, "Hey, if I get 100 likes, I'll live stream this." And I liked it, and I
and forgot about
Sorry,
it.
Jason.
Yeah. So
exactly.
that did happen. Caleb did say that there should be no like major breaking changes from 3 to 4. Version 3 had like the upgrade, like the automated upgrade tool as part of doing Laravel 2 to Laravel 3. That won't exist for version 4. The shift will be available. But it should be a fairly trivial, in the scheme of things, upgrade by all accounts. But yeah, lots of Livewire version 4 content coming on Laravel News, on Laracast, across the ecosystem. So make sure you keep your eyes out for that one. The Laravel VS Code extension has been recently updated with a new feature that allows you to run the Artisan make commands from the command palette. You can run commands, select flags and options, all without leaving your VS Code. Once you type in the name of, for example, make controller in the example in the post, you can fuzzy search for all the available command options. You can select them and create your files with the keyboard. Along with the command palette, you can contextually use make commands from the project tree by right-clicking and selecting the desired file type. And depending on which folder in the project, you can contextually create things using make commands for controllers, for models, queues, jobs, events, and so on and so forth. You can get the official VS Code extension in the Visual Studio Code Marketplace, or search for it within VS Code extension sidebar. This feature is available as of version 1.4. We'll, of course, have links to all of that for you in the show notes.
Okay, folks. Browser testing. Nuno Maduro talked about this on stage at the last Laracon, browser tests with Pest, and they're pretty cool. Playwright is what's used in the back, behind the scenes on this, and of course Pest does a great job of simplifying it. Beautiful Fluent API in order to be able to test these browser tests. Really good stuff. However, one of the challenges with this has been subdomain testing in Laravel applications, which happens on occasion. Like, when would this happen, right? Like, let's say you have multi-tenant deal where every tenant that signs up, they sort of get their own subdomain. Or workspace-based applications, so subdomain routing logic for teams or organization-based apps, right? This happens. And also occasionally things like Laravel sale environments where you might have it set up to be something like Laravel.test or some subdomain variant of that. In those cases, it wasn't really possible to use browser tests to hit those things because the test server was hard-coded to 127.0.0.1. So it just didn't work. So now we have this new withHost method, which allows you to specify the host name for your tests in 2 ways. Here they are. Number 1, you can configure at the test level. So for that particular test, inside the scope of that function, you can say arrow withHost and specify the host. You can also set it globally in your pest.php file. So if you're needing to, like we said, with the Laravel sale environment, if you're wanting to use a host of acme.localhost or acme.test, something like that, you can do that now. So this basically just adds a Fluent configuration method to set the host that all the tests will run against, all the browser tests will run against. Pretty cool stuff. You have to update the Pest browser plugin to get access to that new feature, but it is released and available right now.
Nice. According to Pushpack on X, if you are using an older version of Laravel Boost, you will want to upgrade as soon as possible. Newer AI agents, including Claude Code, have dropped support for the legacy MCP protocol, and to stay compatible, Laravel Boost has added support for the new protocol in a recent release. If you do not upgrade, you may start running into issues when using Boost alongside newer agent tools. So to update, just run composer require Laravel/boost : you can pass the version number and the -w to get the associated dependencies. But this will ensure that your project is using the latest Boost release with support for the updated MCP protocol and avoids potential integration problems going forward. So main thing, make sure you are running at least version 1.8.9 of Laravel Boost, but we'll have links for all of that, as always, in the show notes.
Let's continue on the AI train here. So if you're using Claude Code, good for you. Laravel has released a Claude Code Simplifier plugin. So Taylor talked about this on Twitter the other day, a new Laravel focused plugin for Claude Code that brings, here's what it is, automated code cleanup into Laravel and PHP workflows. So the project is a port of the internal code simplifier agent that was recently open sourced by Boris Cherney and the Claude Code team. So what this would be is if you're just heads down working on a feature with your AI agent, and you get to the end and you're like, okay, this is good, but I want to simplify, clean up, sort of normalize the code. What this will do is it will reduce unnecessary complexity. It will improve readability and structure. It'll clean up larger, messy diffs. It'll make refactoring easy to review and ship. So Taylor's Laravel version adapts the agent specifically for Laravel and PHP conventions and then says, go ahead and do that. So the way that you install this is by, in your Claude Code, you do /plugin, marketplace, add Laravel /Claude-code. It's all in the show notes, folks. You don't have to be, it's not difficult. Just copy and paste. But once it's installed, what you're going to do is you're going to ask Claude to run the Laravel Simplifier after you finish your coding session. So review recent changes using the Laravel Simplifier agent. You prompt it with that. It will go through, do the changes based on the prompt that Taylor has meticulously created. And Bob's your uncle. There you go. It cleans it all up for you. Nice and pretty. That's it.
Perfect. I spoke about this briefly when we talked about Ben Bjurstrom's article earlier, but Laravel has published a new AI-assisted development section on the Laravel 12 documentation, providing first-party guidance on using AI tools effectively within Laravel applications. And in a recent thread, Taylor explained why Laravel's opinionated design makes it a strong fit for AI-assisted development with conventions that remove ambiguity across the entire stack, from controllers to jobs to mail to queues and so on and so forth. Following well-defined patterns allows AI agents to stop guessing and start producing clean, human-readable code. He emphasized that these opinions eliminate debates around structure and tooling. It helps teams focus on building instead of configuration. So this provides Laravel Boost and MCP integration. It provides AI guidelines and documentation search, IDE tooling, and support through the code simplifier that we just spoke about, as well as Boost that integrates with tools and IDEs like Claude Code, Cursor, VS Code, PHP Storm, and Gemini. And why this matters? With the new docs, Laravel is making AI-assisted development a first-class concern. And rather than relying on ad hoc prompts, Laravel now provides structured tooling and guidance that keeps AI output aligned with the framework's philosophy. The new documentation is in the Laravel 12 docs. We'll have links to that for you in the show notes.
Okay, off the AI train and on to releases for other popular libraries here. Filament. Filament is a library that sits on top of Livewire. Huge shout out to that team. We happen to be using Filament in our stack and really like it. But while things were quiet over the Christmas and New Year holiday, the team and community have still been shipping. So a couple of things that released quietly that you might not have known about in version 4.4 and 4.5. There is the ability now to add mentions or hashtags. So if you think like in your GitHub issues, you'll say at Michael Dorinda, and it will automatically populate that with Michael Dorinda because Michael's a part of my team, whatever. Or you can say reference issue number 1234, and it will link to that issue, right? You can now do that in your rich editor content. Users can type a trigger character like @ or £, and then you get a drop down to search for mentions, users, issues, tags. Any records you configure will be able to be dropped in there. Pretty cool stuff. All you have to do to enable that is tag on arrow mentions, and then you have to have a mention provider instance there. For larger data sets, you can also fetch those mentions dynamically from the database. So there you have it. Rich editor image resizing. So inside of your rich editor as well, you can now you upload the image, but then you can resize that image directly inside just using these resize handles. The aspect ratio is always preserved in that instance, which is really nice. That's the default behavior. And so it just comes out of the box that way. File upload aspect ratio enforcement. So this has been a common request to make sure that images have to respect a specific aspect ratio. So in version 4.5, you can now validate and then enforce those things on uploaded images. It must be a square. It must be a 16:9, etc. This is a really useful part of the framework, especially when you have specific locations where things need to go. And if you couldn't force users to upload the right size, then you'd have to be the one to sort of crop it. And if there's any sort of art direction needed, like, hey, I need this to be on your face, how do you do that? It's very difficult. And so you can use the file uploader, and then you can basically allow them to preview their resize, and then you can say save it using this aspect ratio. Then you can enforce it with validation as well. Really cool stuff there. You can now do JavaScript actions directly in your form schemas. So what is this? In Filament, you can define forms similar to like what you could in Laravel Nova. So you say text input and then .op and then these fluent chains on there. What you previously had to do, though, is if you wanted to be able to interact with that using JavaScript, you had to do some funky stuff with that. Livewire recently gave us the ability to sort of inject JavaScript directly to the front end from inside of a component, and Filament, I think, has sort of latched onto that, and now they have the ability to do the same. So you just arrow JS action, and then using a here doc syntax, you can define what you want to have happen in the JavaScript on the front end, all programmed in the code that's in the backend. Pretty cool there. There's a new saved method. Not going to really talk about that one. Skip that. A simpler two-factor authentication setup with traits. If you want to read that one, great. Long story short, you're using traits to set up 2FA instead of a bunch of configuration. Awesome. There is also documentation from the Filament team on how to build domain-driven design principles while using Filament. This is sometimes a complaint of people who have to use these things. It's like, well, yeah, it's great for toy apps, but it doesn't really work for serious business logic. And so the team is responding to that saying, no, there actually is a really good way to do this. It covers things like setting up modules, registering plugins conditionally for panels, sharing resources between panels, recommended directory structures. So it has been heard and they have responded with this documentation. So if that's something you're struggling with or trying to sell your boss on why Filament is a great choice, you can send him over here, take a look at that documentation, and away you go. Thanks, Dan Heron, for writing that one up.
Last of our news items today, PHP DebugBar version 3 has been released. The new PHP DebugBar features modernized JavaScript, removing the jQuery dependency. There is a new table of icons with build script, which replaces heavy font awesome with minimal SVG icons. There are build scripts for prefix dependencies. There is a new asset handler. There is improved contrast for light mode. There is an option to render the debug bar on top instead of the bottom. A whole host of improvements there that we're not going to read out line by line, but there is breaking changes to be aware of because it is a major version for a reason. If you have custom collectors, widgets, or deep integration, expect adjustments. So because jQuery is removed and widgets are now JavaScript classes, custom widgets need to be updated. Font awesome has been removed. Type hints are added to all widgets, so you might need to update your widgets, and widgets are rendered when opening a tab, not when loading the page. There has been a change to the data collectors as well. So if you have implemented your own data collectors, if you have packages and things like that, you will need to check this out if you haven't already, but we'll have links to all of the pertinent information for you to check out.
Hey, dude, we've got some packages to go over here now that we're finally through the news. I'm going to take the first two, just bang, bang. Then you're going to take the next two, bang, bang. And then we're going to go through tutorials and we are going to wrap this one up. Here we go. Detecting and cleaning up unchanged vendor files with Laravel Vendor Cleanup. So have you ever wondered, when you go through and you publish these vendor files, what sort of garbage is just spewing into your application? I have, because I've been guilty of creating them. So if that's you, after user development, these published vendor files accumulate. Some modify, many are left untouched, others get orphaned from long removed packages. This package by Chris Jones provide Artisan commands that will intelligently compare your published vendor files with their originals. It will strip comments out, it will normalize white space, then it will use SHA-256 hashing to show any files that have been modified, and it will color code them to show you which ones are identical to the vendors, which means you can delete them, you don't need them anymore, and which ones are orphaned from removed packages. You don't need those at all anymore either. This allows you to just clean up your cruft, track your customizations, upgrade your packages with confidence. This is something that not only would be something that you could use to just do cleanup, but especially when you're upgrading major versions of packages as well, it can be really helpful to sort of tag for you. These are the things that are changed or removed and that you need to pay attention to. So good on that one. All right. Secondly, Laravel Altitude. Let's talk about this. The tall stack, right? Tailwind, Alpine, Livewire, Laravel. That's what that stands for, TALL, which lends itself then to funny little things like a package called Laravel Altitude, right? Tall, altitude, we get it. We're all on the same page. Okay. What is this? This is opinionated Claude Code agents and commands for tall stack development. I'm not going to read through all the reasons, but know that this is essentially specialty agents that are in place to help write tall stack stuff, right? So it's context aware for the tall stack. I don't know what else to say about this. Claude Code agents, there's things like architect, database, docs, and security. Those are the default agents that are in there. But then you can take it a step further and install package-specific agents. So if you're using Livewire, of course you are, but if you're using Flux or Filament, or if you're using Laravel Reverb or Pest, you can install those optionally as well. And then it's got some workflow commands that are going to speed things up for you, which is great. And then it automatically syncs these things with Laravel Boost. So integrates with it, allowing agents and workflows to stay up to date as your stack evolves. So really cool stuff there. Definitely check that one out, Laravel Altitude. All right, on to you.
Whether you are launching a new product or managing a beta program or rolling out features gradually, waitlists are an essential tool for controlling access and building anticipation. The Laravel Waitlist package by Siobhan Brown provides a flexible and elegant solution for managing waitlists in your Laravel applications. It is designed to handle waitlist management without imposing rigid UI or API structures, and this design philosophy gives developers the freedom to integrate waitlist functionality seamlessly into their existing applications while maintaining full control over the user experience. The key features of the package include a simple API, multiple waitlist support, status tracking, email verification, automatic notifications, custom metadata, and it is flexible because there are no opinionated routes or views. You can use it in your own way. You can install it through Composer, publish your migration files, run the migrations, and then you have basic waitlist management available using the waitlist facade. There is also the ability to manage multiple waitlists and more. The multi-waitlist capability is particularly useful for scenarios where you are managing multiple product launches simultaneously, for creating tiered access programs, organizing feature-specific waitlists, handling regional rollouts, and running different beta testing phases. We'll have links to all of that in the show notes. Thanks to Yannick for putting that one together. And the last package we have here is the Neuron AI framework for PHP and Laravel. Neuron is a PHP agentic framework to build production-ready AI-driven applications. Along with the core Neuron AI framework, the Neuron Laravel package provides Laravel-specific integration points without limiting access to the core framework components. Quoting from the README, the package aims to make it easier for Laravel developers to get started with AI agent development using the Neuron AI framework. Neuron doesn't need invasive abstractions. It already has a very simple syntax. It is 100% typed code and clear interfaces you can rely on to develop your agentic system or create custom plugins and extensions. You can use the Laravel package's Artisan commands to quickly generate files such as a Neuron agent, a tool, a workflow, and more. And using Neuron, you can extend the agent class to create agents quickly, providing you with a rich feature set like chat history tools and a clean interface. While we cannot cover every feature that Neuron provides, we recommend starting with their official documentation, which includes details about every part of Neuron as well as videos. And lastly, you can check out the example application that demonstrates a multi-agent workflow in Laravel. We have the source code linked in the show notes. Thank you to everybody's favorite human, Paul Redmond, for putting that one together.
Here we are, tutorials, folks. We are at the end. Caching with MongoDB. Short version. If you're using MongoDB for your database, you should cache in MongoDB. You can do that. Read this article. That's it. Last one. Here we go. Going real time with Reverb. Harris Raftopoulos, episode 17 of Laravel in Practice. Never refresh again is what he's saying. Your dashboard is fast. Charts are cached. Every time a new order comes in, your user is staring at stale data until they hit refresh. Never again. You can now use Reverb. You can use Echo with Laravel. It could not be easier. He's going to show you how to do it. Check it out. Everybody, that is it. That is the episode. Whew, that was a big one to come back to. Whew, man, that was close. Episode 250. Find show notes for this one at podcast.laravel-news.com/250. If you have any questions, hit us up at Michael Dorinda, at Jacob Bennett, or at Laravel News on X. or on Blue Sky, which nobody still uses, but sure, hit us up over there. That's fine. That's great. Why not? And if you like the show, rate it up in your podcatcher of choice. 5 stars would be amazing. Whew. I am going to go to bed. I am running on 4 hours of sleep, maybe right now.
Not enough sleep. Not enough sleep.
Not enough. You probably see these, if you're watching the video, like you can see it in my eyes. I'm barely here, people. I'm barely here. Glad I was able to be here.
The lights are on, but there's nobody home.
That's it. That's it. You got it. You got it. All right, folks. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye all.